Hi guys, right, so some of you may have noticed over the last few days I posted a video of a cover I did by French guitarist Patrick Rondat, and it's a song called Burnout. You probably realize it's a pretty challenging piece of music. So I just wanted to spend a few minutes maybe just to introduce to you a little bit to those who are not familiar with Patrick Rondat or as to who he is. Being French myself and having grown up in France, Patrick Rondat was a pretty big influence on most of us guitarists that started in the sort of 90s playing in France. He was pretty much the pioneer in terms of being the first French guitarist making it as an instrumental guitarist. We'd had some great guitarists beforehand, but no one really had managed to release albums as an instrumental guitarist. Whereas in the US at that time you had all the shrapnel guitarists like Tony McAlpine, Vinnie Moore and all those guys, and then obviously Joe Satriani and Steve Vai releasing solo albums and being big draws and big influence on people at that point. But France never really had a guitar here at that point. So Patrick Rondat in that way was a very big influence over all of us that started guitar at that point. I'm a huge fan of him, and I've been very lucky to actually have known him for a big chunk of my life as well. And being able to sort of get a lot of advice from him. So it's really with a great honor that I sort of covered one of his songs, and today I just wanted to talk a little bit about him, but also show you a couple of his licks, which are very typical of the way he plays and approaches the guitar. Just to finish off on him, he's got a CV that a lot of us would kill for. He was Jean-Michel Jarre's guitarist for pretty much the 90s and early 2000s, playing a lot of big gigs with him, including some of the Bastille Day celebrations in France, and also notably playing in the Forbidden City in Beijing as well, in front of a lot of people. So, but nonetheless, a very humble man as well. If you ever meet him, really sort of very down to earth about everything he's achieved, and considers himself extremely lucky. And also his solo albums are all amazing. Burnout, the track I covered, comes from his second album, Rape of the Earth, which is for me probably one of my favorite albums of all time. I'm not a huge fan of, actually, bizarrely, of instrumental guitar albums, but some albums really do hit me, and that was one of them. And Burnout was always one of the songs I wanted to cover, and I hoped one day I'll be able to have the technique to be able to cover that song. So I finally did on it. Although he also participated in the G3 in '98, Joe Satriani went out on the G3 deciding that one of the slots will be filled in with local musicians rather than international names. Wanted to find the best sort of guitarists in a particular country. So for France, obviously, it was pretty much a given that Patrick would be the man. Also played, if you're into power metal, played in a couple of albums with UK power metal band LEG. Definitely check it out. There's some really great guitar work from him as well. And it is interesting to listen to him play with the singer Ian Parry. So actually hearing him play on a band rather than a solo project that he's done. One of his albums, if I'm correct, his fourth album, On the Edge, had Doug Aldridge as not Doug Aldridge. What am I talking about? Name escapes me. Whitesnake drummer. I'm sure somebody will point it out to me. Whitesnake drummer on Tommy Aldridge. There you go, Tommy Aldridge on drums. So anyway, definitely check out a lot of his work. Some spellbinding guitar work, but also some great songs as well. Very melodic. Now let's quickly talk a little bit about the technique, and you probably should have seen on my video as well. When I'm covering the song, it's heavily geared. Everything is heavily geared towards alternate picking. Patrick is a big fan of Al Di Meola and the sort of alternate picking school of thought. And what I wanted to do today is just show you a couple of approaches that he uses on his playing, and just look at a couple of licks, and that way you can maybe look at how he approaches those ideas and how you can incorporate those into your practice. So let's have a look at lick number one. This is one of the transitional lick in the song. Let's talk about this, the key we're in, and we'll talk about what he's actually doing. So we're in the key of D Ionian, starting on the 5th fret of A, and we're going 5, 7, 9, and we're doing 5, 7, 9 on the A, 5, 7, 9 on the D, 6, 7, 9 on the G, and the note that we're going to end up, actually the target note at the end, is the 7th of B. Okay, right. So what Patrick is doing on this particular lick, let me play to you very slowly and then I'll break it down. Okay, so what Patrick is actually doing on this particular lick, he's approaching as what we call as a sequence. So if you're not familiar with sequence is when I mean, everybody hates practicing scales, right? But sequence is one way of actually introducing a little bit of more spice to your scale practice. So instead of just going in a very linear way, you develop some sequences which actually help you to build up phrases. In this particular case, if you think about it, what Patrick is trying to say is that he's trying to hit that dramatic note here on the 7th fret of B. He's trying to hit that note here. Now, in order for him to hit that note, he's building up with a sequential run. Now, this sequence run is in triplets, and what he's actually doing, he's doing a sequence of 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he's going up 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4. So he's going up 3 notes, back 1, and up another 3. So let's have a look at what he's doing at the beginning of the sequence. He's starting up on the 5th fret of A, and he's going 5, 7, 9. Then he's going 7, 9 on the A, hitting the 5th of D, and so forth. And he carries on. At that point, you're going to hit the pinky on the 9th fret of D, and going to the 5th fret of D. 9th fret of A going into the 5th fret of D into the 7th fret of D, and so forth. And the last bit of the run, where he's finally landing up on the 6th fret of G, he's basically going 6, 7, 9, and then finishing on the 7th fret of B. So no sequence there, he's going straight up those notes. So one more time, very slowly. Okay, and that's the first sequence we're looking at. So if you're practicing your scales, it's a good method of sort of developing a little bit of your technique, because everything's alternate pick. So let's just quickly look at that. We're going down, up, down, up. Okay, everything's in alternate picking. Okay, and it's a good way to develop your technique, but it's also a good way to sort of build a climax towards your solo or towards an idea. Very often he uses this phrase on sort of transitional, little transitional parts. So he knows he wants to get to a particular note, and he'll just create a drama to get to that note. And just think about that when you're developing your own parts. Let's have a look at another lick now that he's doing a very similar idea but a slightly different sequence. This time around we're in E Dorian. So the notes here are 7, 9, 10 on the A, then 7, 9, 11 on the D, 7, 9, 11 on the G, and then we stay on the 11th of G. So we're playing in E Dorian here. Right, the sequence here is not in triplets anymore. We're actually going to enter in 16th notes. And what we're doing here, we're going up in notes in a sequence of 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a similar idea, but we're adding an extra note. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5. So. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we're starting on the 7th of A, and we're going 7, 9, 10, and then 7 of D. Then we're going back to the second note of the scale, the Dorian scale, onto the 9th of D. We're going 9, 10, 7, 9 on the D, and then so forth. Oops. And at the end, he is actually using that 11th fret twice to create even a bit more drama. Once again, the target note here is that G flat here that he's trying to hit to get into the next sequence, the next part of the song. So that's a really typical approach that Patrick has on a lot of his work, where he's using these kind of scalar runs, but instead of just going straight up the scale, like instead of doing a straight up scalar, he's building up the drama by steps. So that's how you should think about in sequence. So whenever you're practicing your scales from now on, try to incorporate a little bit of sequencing work. It's great to develop your finger work on your left hand, because you sort of learning the fingering even in a better way than just going up in a linear way, but it also makes you work on your alternate picking. You can also practice this, if you're not so keen on doing alternate picking, you can also practice this doing legato as well. Anyway, I hope this was useful. Look, the main purpose of this was to show you a couple of ideas by Patrick Rondat, but it was also to actually encourage you to go and check out his discography. If you're a bit bored with the usual names now, why not check out somebody who's been around for a long time, has done some amazing work, and hopefully you'll find some great songs in there as I have. Anyway, I hope this was useful. Until next time, stay metal.